Hey everybody, it's Amy Gretchen. Thank you so much for joining me today. So in this video, I'm doing something slightly different in that I'm working on a Halloween album. I've never actually made a Halloween album. I've only ever just done some scrapbooking layouts. And so when I saw Ali Edwards' Halloween kit, I thought it would be fun to do an album that was just dedicated to the costumes my kids wore. So starting in around 2006, I took I would say, an official Halloween picture of my child in their costume. So I do have earlier ones from earlier years, but I didn't do that and they're all on film. And so I decided that I would look for those pictures later because I have to kind of go search through boxes. So I just decided to start 2006 when I started taking the pictures either behind a black or a white screen. And you can kind of see those photos. At any rate, I decided to assemble them all together. And what I initially I was like, I'm going to do a 6x8 album. And then as I've been editing all of my December daily videos, I decided I really wanted to do a smaller album again. And I thought it would just be a really cute decor piece for, to have out during October and during Halloween. So what you're seeing me do right now is assemble each of the pages with the costume. So you can see I've got the individual photos, and the photos that are on the black background, I am putting onto white piece of paper. And then the photos that are on white background, I'm going to be putting on black piece of paper. So you will see that as I go throughout the album. I'm not going to show you all the pieces of everything because, oh my gosh, it'll take way too much time. It's already taken me so much time just to edit the video. So you don't want to sit through all of it, I promise. So I'm giving you a glimpse of a couple of them, and then you can get the idea of what I did for the rest. So things that I did off camera that you're not seeing. So the black rectangle that's got the white writing, I actually used the fuse tool for that. And then I've got some of the years that are cut out in black and then cut out in white. And I did that on the silhouette as well. That was just a digital file. The numbers or the years, it's just something I created. If that's something you guys are interested in, you can let me know. And maybe it's something that I will hop onto my Etsy. I've definitely been trying to do that a little bit more in order to supplement everything that I've been doing. It's kind of been nice to have little ways to make money here and there. So if you're interested in that, like I said, it's just a pretty basic file. I can put something like that onto Etsy. So anyway, those are the things that I did off screen. You're also going to see the black pieces of paper will have some white writing on there. Again, that is using the fuse tool. And if you want to know how to use a fuse tool, I have several videos using the fuse tool, and I can link a playlist below so you can check that out, see if it's something that you might be interested in. Speaking of the fuse tool, I think the other day when I was in, was it Joann's or Michael's? I think it was Joann's. I saw that they had them on clearance or they were on sale at a very great price. So if you are interested in, which I totally would be interested in, the fuse tool, if you have a silhouette or a Cameo, I love it. It's such a great way to add to your albums. It's just a really great option. I would definitely invest in one, and they're not very expensive. All right, so you saw that now, I kind of skipped through like I said I was going to do. So I've got years 2006 through 2021, except for 11, 12, and 13 are not there because I've lost all those images. And that's something we'll talk a little bit about. I do add a little something in this album to show the reason why those photos are missing, why I'm missing those years. So I will show you that when I start working on it. But what I'm doing right now, maybe I should give you a caveat right now and just say, this is going to be a long video. And I decided that it's basically like putting together a December daily album, but instead of doing every day separate, I'm doing them all together. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to lay out all of the pages so I know what I need. So I know what paper, so I can go throughout all of my papers and decide where I want to put them. And then I can look through all the embellishments. So I'm starting to gather some things right now. And I don't know if I showed it. I think that I did, that I cut the vellum so that witch vellum that you can see and the pumpkin vellum, And the other one that has like the spells and stuff, that came from the kit, from Ali Edwards' kit. So I just cut that to size. My album, I don't think I mentioned it, is a 4.25 by 4.25 by 5.5 inches. So it's an A2 card size. And like I said, I'm just going to lay everything out so I have an idea of how many spots I have available for papers or photos or embellishments or whatever it is. So I actually went back on my computer and I looked at photos that went along with the costume. So there were a few years, not every year, but there were a few years where I had pictures of the three of them together. And you can see that some of the photos look better than others. And that's because I printed out a couple of the photos just onto my color laser printer. So I will print those out onto a better printer later. I accidentally started printing them on 4x6 cards and I realized that's not going to work because I need 4.25. So I knew that I'd need to print it out on a 5x7 and then cut it out. So anyway, that is something I will do a little bit later, and you'll see later on in this video that I will swap out the photos, but I just wanted to get those photos in place, get everything where that needs to be so I know, like I said, how many spots I have for paper. So Ali Edwards kit does have some 6x8 paper. It's actually a little bit bigger. Well, I think it will fit page protector size. And I don't think I realized that at the time. And so I grabbed over just a whole bunch of Halloween paper that I have. Most of it that I'm showing is from American Crafts Hey Pumpkin. And then you'll see a little bit later when I realized that she had paper, I end up using it in the second half. So this is kind of the first half that I'm showing you, and then the second half. She also has these really great tags. So that one said Boo Crew, and the other one, did it say Boo Crew? And the other one said costume. And I thought this would be really great for a little bit of journaling. I knew that I wasn't going to add a ton of journaling. I just wanted to get a couple stories told. I also did not want to have those tags back to back, but it fit really well in the journaling, in the album that way, in that the Boo Crew was kind of next to the photo of my kids and all their cousins. And the story that I was telling on that card was all about how we had this tradition every year. The cousins would come over and we would go trick-or-treating together. And we did that until they got a little bit older and kind of ended up doing other things with their friends and stuff like this. I'm going to push pause and say this is the Ali Edwards paper that I was talking about. And then the costume was just about how several years I would make costumes. I didn't do it every year, but I talked a little bit about making costumes and how much I enjoyed that and the costumes that I did make. And so I thought it would go great with one of the years where I had a costume that I made. I think it was the Dorothy one that Megan was wearing. And so it just fit really good there. So those are back to back. Honestly, it doesn't bother me at all now that my album is assembled. It doesn't make a difference to me at all. So anyway, I cut up some more of that paper. I got my journaling done for the story. I think I had shown that already though. And now I'm just going through and looking through a lot of the embellishments. So like I said, I'm using Ali Edwards kit, and then I'm also going to be using American Crafts Hey Pumpkin, which is an older, I don't want to say kit. It's an older collection that I've just had and I've always wanted to use. So I was super excited to be able to use some of that in this album as well. So these word strips came in Ali's kit. They've got really fun Halloween themed, gosh, what would you say? I want to say lyrics, but it's not lyrics. I guess just phrases. And they're in gold. And I think that they're really pretty on the black, and they are of vellum, so you can kind of see through. And so I was trying to figure out where, I maybe wanted to add some of those. And what you'll notice as I go throughout putting this album together is I don't want to say I'm constantly changing my mind, but I'm holding up embellishments and I'm trying to decide, do I like this here? Don't I like this here? Does this look good? Should I put this somewhere else? I didn't want to just add stuff to add stuff. I definitely wanted it to make sense, but I also wanted it to just be fun and have some of these, pops of dimension that you really get when you add embellishments. So I started to adhere some things together. In fact, I started to punch holes and I realized, I really need to probably adhere them together before I start punching holes. So that is what you're going to see me do right now. I also noticed that if you notice, the 6x8 paper packs that come in a collection are often a smaller pattern than when you get the 12x12. And so I wanted the houses to be a little bit smaller. So I cut it out of the 6x8 paper pack that I have. And then I just adhered those together. And I do end up making a mistake. I think I don't end up showing it. And it's not like it's that noticeable. But when I punch some of the holes, I punch it on the wrong side on one of them. So I think later on you'll see me actually redo that. But I was really frustrated because I tried really hard to make sure I had everything in the correct spot. So I think this is where I'm going to jump because I didn't feel like you needed to sit through and watch me necessarily assemble every single thing. And so I think this is about where I'm going to like cut it off and like move forward in the album. All right, so jumping ahead, like I said, I'm now going to be working on 2014 through 2021. So you will see as we go throughout this album, I've got 3 kids in the majority of the years. And then once we hit 2018, Bella had graduated and I did not get a picture of a costume that year. I'm not sure if she dressed up. I think maybe she did dress up, but I did not get a picture because she was not living near me. She was in college. So starting in 2018, you will see that then I go down to 2. And then in 2020, which was a little bit different because we were in Seattle. Of course, Tess was off to college as well. And there was not dressing up in 2020. Then in 2021, you can see that it's just Megan as well. But that time I decided to include her and her friends. All right, so now I'm working on a page or a spread for the years 11, 12, and 13. I really wanted to include in the album why I'm missing these 3 years. And I don't actually, well, I guess I do have some journaling. I take that back. But I wanted an indication of why it goes from, 10 to, 2010 to 2014. So I thought it would be fun to do a separate page. And because this is Halloween themed, I thought it would be fun to do a rest in peace because that's what it feels like. It definitely feels like a death of my photos. So if you're not aware, I actually lost my photos from the years 11, 12, and 13. They were on a hard drive that failed and I have not been able to recover it, but I do have my hard drive. I've saved it in case it ever comes back, but I don't know that it ever will. But you never know. Technology changes, right? But they weren't able to recover any of the photos. I was willing to spend thousands of dollars having them recover it, but they could not do it. So at any rate, I've lost those photos. And so anytime I go back in time and try and get photos from that era, I am so sad. And this is one of those times where I don't, I can't go back and get our Halloween photos, and it just is so devastating to me. So anyways, I wanted to include something to kind of share why. And I created this cut file. I actually did it in Illustrator and then sent it off to my Silhouette. I, really love how this turned out, and I really love how it is included in the album and that it just fits really well in a Halloween album because it's the rest in peace. So I do end up doing a little bit of journaling under a photo. So you guys, I was able to get one photo from the year, I believe it was 2012. And it's of my daughter, Bella, and she was Napoleon Dynamite. And that was the only one that I had on my Instagram. So I just grabbed it off my Instagram. So anyway, I'm glad that I had at least one. I can't believe it. That's it. I only had one photo to share. And it was one of, I think, my most favorite costumes my kids have ever done because she looked so awesome. And so I'm so sad I do not have photos all the rest of the photos that I took from those years. It really is very, very devastating to me. And like I said, anytime I go back, like each of my kids have graduated, and whenever I'm like trying to find photos from that time period, there's just like a huge chunk of 3 years, which is so long. And my kids grew up so much in that amount of time, like my daughter Bella was 10 years old and then she was 14 years old. And that is a huge chunk of time of changing, right? And so it was really a really, really, really sad loss for me. And I try not to think about it. And I never think about it unless I'm doing something like this. But anyway, I am going to move on from that. I'm just really glad that I was able to include a piece of that into this album. All right. So what I've just been doing is I've been working on some embellishments. I also wanted to reprint the 2020 and make it black so it would stand out a little bit more, because I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do with the year 2020 because I didn't have an album, or excuse me, I didn't have any costume pictures, but I did want to include something. So I just grabbed these photos that we took when we were at the pumpkin patch in Seattle, which was really beautiful. I mean, it was just really beautiful there. So I included the photos. And that is going to be what is submitted this year in 2020. And we will all remember it was COVID, and we will all remember that it was just a different time of year, or different time in our life, I guess. So like I said, the embellishments that I've been using are from Ali Edwards, her Halloween kit. Also from Ali Edwards, I'm using some past stories by the month kit chipboard. So that October memories, which I don't actually think that I use, or the costume fun, those all came from an October stories by the month kit. I just grabbed over my stash. And then again, the American Crafts Hey Pumpkin. And these are some of the ephemera pieces that I was looking through to see if there was anything more that I wanted to include. So grabbed out a few pieces that kind of stood out to me. And then I really was trying to find a way to include these gold words, but in the end, I think I didn't love the gold. I don't know. It just wasn't working with my album and the way my album was going. And so I opted to not include any of those, but you'll see that coming up. Like I said, I go back and forth with the embellishments, and that's just how I work. And one thing that I will say is putting this together actually took several days. Like I would work on it for a couple of hours, and then I'd just leave it, and then I'd come back the next day because I didn't have enough time. Plus maybe the lighting was bad or something like that. So I definitely worked on it throughout the weekend. It was actually a weekend that I worked on it. So that's why I would come back and I'd look at the embellishments and I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't like this. I'd remove it or I'd change it or something like that. So this is the Napoleon Dynamite picture that I was talking about. I just snagged that off Instagram. Oh, I wish I was Instagramming way more photos back then, but anyway, whatever. We're going to move on from that, right? I could talk about it forever. This little banner says best costume ever, and I do end up including that on the side, but that's something that that's something that I eventually get to. I'm just going to cut that out. And that journaling talks a little bit about what I talked about with you guys. Just the reason why it's not included is because I lost those photos, but this photo is from 2012. So every time I'm cutting out a piece of paper like that I just printed off my computer, I'm like, why didn't I do cut marks? It would just be so much easier if I included the cut marks for the file, but whatever, I didn't do it. So like I said, I really wanted to include this on there. I felt like it was a little too thick, and so I'm cutting it down, and like I said, I do eventually put it on there, but I have to redo this page, and you'll see, I don't know if you actually see me redo the page. I think you do. I actually redo the page because that photo of my daughter and the one next to it, that is the ones that get punched wrong. And so, yeah, I have to redo it. Anyway, such a bummer, but I only had to redo one, and that is actually a win for me because I feel like I'm always having to redo something. So anyway, and here I am just being really particular about trying to get this actually centered. It's fine. I realized the photo's not even square. Like it was supposed to be, I think, a 3x3 square, and it's like 3 inches by 2.25. So I have to cut it down anyways. So silly, right? So anyway, now that I've got everything in place, I'm going to do what I did before and just start assembling everything together and adhering the photos back to back, and then, punching the holes. So the holes for this, I actually ended up using the We Are Memory Keepers Crop-A-Dile. Is it the Crop-A-Dile? I think it's the Crop-A-Dile, which has a little bit smaller holes than the green handle. I think the green handle is like a 1/4 inch hole, and I end up using the smaller one. Yeah, because the reason why I did that is because I didn't want the hole punch to go through the photos. And if I had done the larger hole, it would have gone through the photos. The photos that are adhered onto either the black and white pieces of paper. So I didn't want it to cut into the photos, and that's why I opted to do the smaller hole. Plus it worked just fine with the rings that I'm using, and those are just rings that I got from like Office Max or something like that. So anyway, like I said, just going to continue to assemble everything together. And then I did print out this photo because I don't even know how I figured that out, but I love the look of it behind the Rest in Peace cut file that I created, the vellum piece. And so I thought it would be really cool behind it. I think I would just have like a pattern paper, but that made such an impact because it's a sunset picture and it's coming through the vellum, and it's coming through like at the perfect place with the Rest in Peace outline. And so I thought this would be really cool back to back. So anyway, this is the dreaded hole punching that I'm going to have to redo when I realize, oh my gosh, I did it wrong. And you can kind of see, if I flip it over, you can see how it's cutting, the hole was cutting into those photos. And that's what I was trying to avoid. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if I share with you my redo, but I do end up redoing it. So, and as I'm adhering, as I'm putting things together, I'm actually adhering things down. I'm making some decisions, you guys, as I go. All right, so I'm just jumping ahead, and I've got my entire album all assembled together, all the holes punched, and I wanted to work on the cover. So this album that I'm using, this acrylic album, is something that I made when I made my December daily album last year. I had a couple other pieces cut because I wasn't sure. I had a white one, a clear one, and a red one cut, and I just wasn't sure what color I wanted to use. I went with the red, but I was really happy that I had the clear one was available because I thought it worked really well. I was thinking that I wanted black, that I wanted this to be black, but I really love that the clear allows me to see through, that I could do this really cool spider web. So this spider web is a cut file I got from Silhouette. I think it might be from Paige Evans. I will have it linked below. And this is the file that I used to create the Rest in Peace. It didn't have the Rest in Peace. That was something, that was something that I created, but I had her spider web and I just combined them together. And anyway, I just wanted to use the spider web alone for the cover. And I tried to adhere it so the circle would kind of be in the center, and it's definitely off to the side, but it's for the most part in the center. I like that it's not like exact, just because I don't think it has to be exact for this. And then I'm adding that on top of the photo. And then I'm getting the numbers that came in Allie Edwards' Halloween kit. I love these numbers. These are a great option if you don't want to use them in your Halloween, or because there's so many numbers that you can use them in my December daily. So you will definitely see this in my December daily stash. So I just decided to add a 31 just to indicate Halloween. And that's how I'm doing my cover. And I really love the simplicity of it and just how it looks. And that is how my album's going to look with the rings. But I decided to take the rings off because I want to go through my album one more time and just start making sure all the embellishments are exactly what I want. And I think I end up doing this 2 or 3 times, kind of going back and forth. And I don't know that I show you all the times. I go back and forth. But you can see that I'm going through and I've got a tag, and so I want to add some ribbon. And so I've grabbed over a bunch of my ribbon, and then I'm going to put the ribbon onto the tags, and I've got several of those that I want to do. I also really wanted the tags to be lifted up. So I've got, what do you call these? The foam squares. I've got the foam squares so that there's a little bit of dimension to the tag. And I thought that tag was super cute, that Hey Pumpkin. And then I was thinking about adding a star or two, and I think maybe I changed that a little bit in the end, but I end up adding a couple stars. I really like the idea of adding embellishments underneath the foam also, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And so you'll see me quickly pass through spreads that don't need any embellishments. And like I said, I'm going through and I'm trying to decide, is this what I want to do? Do I want to do something different? So I'm trying to think if there's anything more I want to add. I feel like all the things that I've wanted to say about this album, I have said, and really right now it's just all about playing with my embellishments, adding in my ribbon, and trying to decide, is this what I want? So you can see on this tag, I ended up punching the holes. So one thing I will make note of, I did end up using the digital file of the bucru and the costume because I went to print onto the actual tag and my printer ruined it. So I was really bummed about it. I have to remember that my printer, it's my laser color printer, doesn't do well with really thick cardstock, and so it did not do well in this situation. So I ended up having to use the digital file because I ruined the actual tag, which is such a bummer. But anyway, I'm glad that I had the digital file and that digital files are an option. So anyway, like I was saying, I don't know that I have much more to add, and so I think I'm just gonna let you guys watch me work, and I will put on a little bit of music. And if there's something that I feel like I want to say, I will hop back on here. just hopping back on here because I wanted to officially say goodbye to all of you. For the most part, I am done with this album. There are a few things that I add along the way, but I will be doing an entire flip through of this album completely finished. So look for that coming up in a separate video. But for now, I just want to thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate your support to my channel. And like always, if you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more of this content. All right, you guys, we will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.